Hi everyone, my name is Tim Lacey and I'm here to show you how to do the inventory downtown in San Diego. And this will be the first time we've tried to do a large-scale inventory with an all-volunteer force, so we're expecting some snags, but we want to give you some advice to make it all work out as best as it can. So the first thing I want to make sure you have when you go downtown is either a tape measure or a cloth tape measure. This is important because we have to estimate the size of these trees. So using a standard ruler, we can do something along these lines, and I can estimate that this tree is about 12 inches in diameter. A more accurate method is to use the tape. And the thing to know about a tape is that when you measure a tree with the tape, that you're measuring around the tree, so you're measuring the circumference, not the diameter. There are special tapes you can buy that are marked in units of 3.14 inches, and those are on Amazon, but I just use a regular tape measure. And I actually wrote on there, see at 3.14 it says 1, at 6.3 it says 2, and so on. So I can actually use this tape. I would show you on this tree, but this tree's a little too big for my tape. I only made a tape up to 10 inches. At some point it's okay to estimate, and the more you do this, the better you get at it. But the key thing to remember is the diameter is the distance across the tree. And again, this tree right here is also about 12 inches. So that's pretty close for our purposes. The other tricky thing is measuring height, of course, and that one you pretty much have to be creative and come up with a method. I like to look at my shadow and compare it to the shadow of the tree. You can also look at a building, find ways to estimate the height of the building, and then find at which point of the building the tree matches. But that's it for getting set up. Let's go ahead. I'm going to record my screen as I go around and do a number of trees downtown. You'll see the sorts of issues we run into. The first of which is going to be that I don't know what kind of tree this is that's above me. And I could guess that it's a black locust or something based on things I've looked at with apps on my phone and looking on the web, but I don't know for sure. So unfortunately, all the trees on this street I will have to label as unknown species, but that's okay because I'll take good pictures and an arborist can come back and just in a second identify these trees. So the hard part is getting them on the map, measured and photographed, and that's what we have you here to do. So stay tuned and we'll get to the screen portion of the demo. It's a beautiful Sunday here in San Diego, and the best thing about Sunday is that the parking is generally not metered. So I was able to find a spot and I'm ready to go. Hello everyone, welcome to my demo portion for the downtown inventory. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do half of a city block, starting on Park Blvd, working down toward Petco Park, and then taking a right and going around the block. We will encounter two different types of tree species. Let me give you a picture of where we're at. As you can see, here we are on Park Blvd looking south. These are the first trees we'll do, and then when I get up there to the end, I'll take a right and take a turn. Anyway, before we start, I wanted to show you that I made two shortcuts for the tree plotter shortcut that you were probably sent by email. And they're both here, those bottom two icons. One's called Downtown SD and one's called Tree Plotter DS. One of these I created in Safari, the one on the right, and it will open the link up in Safari. The other one I created in the Shortcuts app on the iPhone, which gives you the option of setting a URL to open up in Chrome and then allows you to make a shortcut on your homepage. So I prefer to use Chrome when I do this, so I'm going to do the demo with Chrome. It does work in Safari as well, and I recommend you use both. If you have issues with one, use the other. It's at some point it's personal preference, but there are certain things that work a little differently too, like moving dots, but we'll get to that in a minute. So let me go ahead and click on my Downtown SD link. It always asks me this question I don't understand. I just hit allow, and that will open up Chrome and take me to my link. The beauty of doing this and recording it is that I can trim out the time it takes for the site to load. Let me go ahead, and at the bottom of the screen I'm going to click this little arrow which hides that pane. Now you can see it's showing the downtown inventory and only showing the trees that are on the map at this time. So I can zoom in and find where I am, or there's another thing I can do. On the left, fourth down from the top, there is a button that looks like a crosshatch. If I click that, it will come up and ask me if it's okay to use my location, and I always say yes. If you don't say yes, you'll have to go into your privacy settings and fix it, so I recommend saying okay. So now it's showing roughly where I am, and it's pretty close. It's got me across the street from where I am. One of the things about being downtown is that the GPS doesn't work nearly as well as usual. because the buildings interfere with the signals. So now that what this does though is it zooms in on the map to roughly my location, so I can, I know that I'm across the street from there, but I will go ahead and turn that off now that I have it centered where I am. I'm right here at the corner of 11th and Park, and the bushy tree there on the left of the corner is what I'm going to start with. So there are a few ways you can identify the species of this tree, and I went ahead and used one thing called the Urbantreekey. You type in Urbantreekey, it takes you to a site called urbantreekey.calpoly.edu, and this one walks you through the types of choices you have for the tree. And when I go through and fill this out, I get a recommendation that I'm not sure is correct. So we keep going for this tree. All right, so once I select enough choices, it recommends a few trees to me. I find this is incredibly hard to do, but for those of you who get to know the trees, it might work. So it's suggesting this tree could be a carrotwood, or a Kaffir plum, or an English walnut, or a Jerusalem thorn, or a Chinese pistache. And the Chinese pistache picture looks roughly correct, except the leaves don't look like the leaves on this tree. The leaves on this tree are round. So the Peruvian pepper tree is close, but its leaves are also longer and skinnier. The Brazilian pepper looks pretty close, but not close enough. So basically, I'm unable to identify this tree. There is another way to do it. I have an app, which is not a free app, but I downloaded it to try it out. It is called Picture This. And when I use Picture This, it allows me to take a picture. So here, you can see we're taking a picture of our tree. And in many cases, it can identify the tree pretty accurately. But in this case, it does not. It comes up as a weeping fig. I just know it's not a weeping fig. But what I have to do, because I don't know for sure, is I just have to go back to Tree Plotter. And we're going to put this tree as an unknown species. So, all right, let's go ahead and log in. If I click the menu in the upper right, it gives me the option to log in. You can use the credentials that were given to you. I will use this training account. All right, and once you have everything entered, go ahead and press login. When you log into the map, it takes you all the way out of what you were doing and just brings you to the top level of our map. So you'll see there's just trees in Balboa Park, and it's not really helpful. But what I can do is I can hit refresh. If I go up above and just refresh the page. In this case, I just clicked on the URL and hit enter again. Now it's reloading the downtown inventory link, and you'll see we're right back where we were. And I can zoom into my location, and we can get started right away. So the first thing I'm going to do is add these trees along Park Boulevard. So I will simply go up to the top and say add tree. When it asks me what template to use, you just simply select tree. And when it asks you how you want to add the tree, we are going to add trees by touching the map. So you can just hit by map. The by GPS option would only be applicable if you had an external GPS device that worked well downtown. But I recommend using the map for downtown. So now you can see up in the upper right that little box is blue. That means we are in add mode. So as soon as I touch where the tree is, it will bring me to this window to create a tree. So we just need to go from top to bottom and fill this in. We can start right down here with common name. I could not identify the species, so I'm going to type in unknown. And I like to pick this one that says use notes for details. So unknown species. Now we go down here to diameter measurement method. This is asking us how we're going to determine the size of the tree. So you can see our choices are calipers, tape, estimated, Nutri-Estimate. We generally, in this case, will use tape or estimated. Let's go ahead and select estimated. I will get out my ruler and just do an estimate here by just eyeballing it. And I'm guessing 18 inches for this tree. So this tree just has one giant trunk, so I select one stem and put an 18 inches. All units are in inches and feet, so please no centimeters here. So now it says tree height estimated. So for this one, it's a little tricky because this is a very big tree. So I will actually step back and look at the building. So just basically doing some basic math and counting the bricks on the side of the building. I determined the first floor of the building to be 12 feet and each subsequent floor to be 10 feet. That places me at 42 feet plus the height of the balcony, about 4 feet, so about 48 feet for this tree. So now we get the condition. We want to keep it very simple. In this case, I think this tree looks great. I can't say it looks excellent. It's really good just to call things good or very good. I like to just use the 40, 60, 80, 100 scale. So I'm just going to say this tree is in good condition. And then the next step is to take a picture. So public photos, we hit choose files. It allows us to use the camera. So when we take a picture of the tree, we want to get the entire tree. Now this tree is obviously so tall, we won't be able to do that. So we also want to get the surrounding features and hardscapes and buildings so that we can make sure we actually have the correct tree. So I'm going to take this tree. The lighting's not ideal, but downtown's a challenging place to take pictures. So I have pretty much the entire tree. You can see the planter and sidewalk and other things at the bottom. So there's a picture we can use for that tree. We always want the tree centered in the picture, especially when you have a whole set of trees like this that are all the same, to know that you have the right one. So let's go ahead and use that photo. So there's one more thing we can do for this tree. Down below it says infield comments. When I looked this up, one of the suggestions that came up was black locust, so I'm just going to write black locust, question mark. And since we didn't know the species, we need an arborist to come and look and determine that. And at the top of the page, if we scroll back up, you'll see there are a few buttons. There's QC arborist needed, QC mapping needed, and QC requested. These are the buttons we want you to push for any tree that has issues that you want someone to look at. If you don't touch any of those buttons and you put in a species, we're going to assume you know exactly what you're doing and that you're fully confident about what you've done and that you don't want anyone to double check your work. But in this case, I have no idea what species this is. I'm going to click QC arborist needed. And I have black locust down there in the infield comments because generally when we go through and do QC work, we look to see what's in the comments to guide us towards what needs to be figured out. So that plus the fact this is an unknown species means that someone will look back on this entry and fix it. So let's go ahead and hit close. When we close it, the dot's automatically saved and you can see it there on the map. If you look up in the upper right corner, you'll notice that it's still blue, meaning we're still in add tree mode. So if I touched anywhere on the map at this point, it would create a tree. Like let's say I touch out, well, I don't want to show you right now, I'll show you later. But what I'm going to do is walk down to the next tree. And you can see it on the map and just imagine we're walking down. So now I'm at the second tree here. I'm going to go ahead and put this dot on the map as well. Now because this tree is identical to the last tree, I don't have to enter all those fields again. I can just hit load last and it will fill in everything exactly the same as the last tree. The only thing we really need to change is these measurements. So I'm going to pull out my ruler again to estimate. And I'm guessing this tree is a little smaller, 16 inches. And in terms of height, well, now that we've done one tree height, doing the next one is just a matter of doing a comparison. So let's take a look. If I just step back and look at these trees, I can see that this tree only goes to the 4th floor balcony or so. So I'm just going to put in it as 38 because I determined it was 10 feet per floor. So we'll put in this one as 38 feet. Now it's time to take a picture of this one. So we choose a file, take a photo. And you can see I'm really crowded here. I'm right up against the building and that's all I can see, right? And there's a balcony above me. That's why it turns black. So I could use this as my picture. I think that'd be okay. It's not ideal. The only way to do better would be to go across the street and take a picture aiming this way, which is something I'm not going to do right now. So we'll just take that picture. The nice thing about this picture is I can see it's perpendicular on the tree. And so when I look straight across, I can see the building behind it. So I can tell exactly where this tree is if I were to come back here to figure out which one you were talking about. So we will use that photo. Again, the most important thing about the picture, besides capturing the tree, is capturing the location. And capturing the location ideally so that someone with a satellite image could determine the location, but the worst case, just visiting the tree on site would be able to confirm for sure. So everything else is still filled in. Black locust question mark is still appropriate. QC arborist is needed is already checked because we copied the last tree. So let's just go ahead and close this one and let's add the next tree. So you see it starts to speed up now. So we'll add a tree. I'm going to load last because it's a copy of the last one. This one's a little bit smaller. I'm going to estimate the diameter to only be 13 inches, just a little bit longer than my ruler. Tree height for this one, I just compare to the last one. It looks almost the same as the one we just did. So I'm going to keep the 38 and I'm going to choose a file, take a photo, get back all the way against the building and take another picture with the balcony. Let's see. Yep, so this one I don't have a balcony on top, so I can take that. Notice I'm getting the entire trunk of the tree and as high as I can. All right, so that one's done. We hit close. Then we go to the next one. I think we're starting to get the hang of this. So I notice there's a problem now. When you look at the satellite image, you see that big green cluster. That's actually 3 trees. So I wasn't doing a very good job locating my dots. And now I look at that. I realize I need a little more room to put a third tree in. Let's actually add the third tree where I think it is. So I'm going to look, I'm going to walk. I can see the balconies in the picture, and I can see that the third tree is just inside the edge of the balconies that are sticking out. So I'm going to put my third dot right where I think the third tree is. I'll do the same, I'm going to load last to copy the last tree. There we go. I use my ruler to give an estimate. I'm going to estimate this one at 14 inches. I'm going to step back and take a look at the height. Compared to the last one, I'd say this one is about 8 to 10 feet shorter, only getting to about the top of the 3rd floor. So I'm going to put this one at 34 feet, just a little bit lower. Okay, 32 feet. All right, so again, these are only estimates. So now everything's filled out exactly the same. The only thing I need to do is take a picture of this final tree. All right, there we've got it. So now that that's done, let's close this and take a look at our dots. You can see we have 3 dots there that are not evenly spaced. But I know when I look at the 3 trees that they're completely evenly spaced. In fact, that middle tree is closer to the tree on the right. So I'm going to turn off add tree mode at this point. So I'm going to go up to the top and I'm going to say stop adding tree. So now now that is not blue anymore. I'm going to try to find the location of this first dot. So what I can do is I can look at the actual building and the contours of the side of the building to look for identifying features. And sure enough, I find one. I can see the top edge of the building, I can see those little bumps, and I can identify those with my location. I'm going to move my trees a little bit. So I can go up to this upper right menu and say move tree. Now what happens is when I click a tree, it selects it, and when I click again, it assigns a new location. So I know that this tree is now in that location. Now this middle tree corresponds to the little white thing that juts out from the building along the edge there. So I can now click on that tree. I have to click move tree again. Now I click on this tree. It's selected, and now I can put it right here. Right, so now those 3 trees are in the right locations. And again, I'm looking at the features of the building just next to it to find out exactly where the trees should lie. So now that those trees are satisfying to me, I'm going to go ahead and go back up here and go to add tree again. We'll say again, we'll start over by tree and by map. All right, so now there's 2 more down here at the end of the street. I'll walk down and capture them. This one here is at the edge of that balcony, so I can't see that on the... Oh, I see there is a roof up there on top of the building. And these trees, this tree roughly lines up with that edge of that roof. So I'm going to go ahead and tap right here where I believe I am. I'm going to hit load last, which will bring up the last tree I entered. There's all of our information again. So now let's do the size. This tree's quite a bit bigger. I'd say it's 16 inches. And the height of this tree, again, I will take a look up and compare it to the other trees. This tree's a little bit bigger. This tree's about 10 feet taller than that last tree we just did, so I'm going to put this one at 42. And then I'm going to take a picture. There you go. This tree's done. That leaves just one left on this street, which is over here in the corner. And I'm still in ad mode, because once you're in ad mode, it stays in ad mode. So I'm going to look at the tree. I can see the crosswalk stripes. I can see the top of the building. And based on the top of the building, my tree should be about here. Okay. Let's go ahead and load last and bring in all the information from the last tree. Just measuring again with a quick ruler for an estimate. This one I get is 18. This is a much bigger tree. And when it comes to estimating the height, visually it looks identical to the last tree, so I'll leave the number the same. I can compare and make sure it's the top of it. So 42 would mean it's the top of the fourth floor. And I can visually 1, 2, 3, 4 confirm that. It looks about right, maybe a little lower, so I may lower the number a little, just to hone my estimates over time. Now we'll take a picture of this tree, right here. Another thing to avoid when you're taking pictures is to avoid people. People generally don't like to be in the pictures. Also, it's good not to get license plates and things like that. Here in this case, I had a few cars. I think that's okay. All right, so we are now done with this side of the street. Close. So now, as you can see, when we zoom out, the entire length of Park Blvd along this little block is done. So then we just turn the corner and keep going. I find a Jacaranda tree. This is the tree I'm familiar with. I recognize it. And also my photo app, my picture of this app was able to identify it perfectly. So it's just a matter of zooming in and doing our dots. Now you notice a few problems here. If you look at all my dots, they're not really on the sidewalk. They're off to the right. And the building overhangs the sidewalk there. So my dots are pretty much all probably about 5 or 6 feet to the right of where they should be. So for now I'll leave them alone, but it's the kind of thing if I went home on my computer I could actually move all the dots just a little bit. It's really easy on a computer to drag them with your mouse. If I wanted to move all those dots a little bit to the right and up, I could do that. But it's a lot easier to do on the computer than here. So I would save that to revisit when I get home. Anyway, if we zoom in on the map now at Park and 10th, it's really hard to see anything. It's dark, it's shadowy, it's really tough. But I do see features from the top of the building. I see that square I see that square at the top of the building, and I know that my tree is roughly lined up with just inside the back edge of that square, so I can use that as a reference point, and I can add a tree right here. All right, so now we have a new species. So I can load last and get all the stuff from before, but now I know that we don't need an arborist because I know this is a Jacaranda. And I can go to common species and I can type in, I can click on Jacaranda. So then it's the same questions, diameter. So we'll use my ruler again, and it's about 13 inches. Now I go tree height. I have to take a walk back from the tree to really get a sense. I look here, I can see that it goes to about the middle of a third story window, so that would be 12 feet for the first story, 10 feet for the second story, and about 6 feet. So 10 plus 12 plus 6, I'll get up to 28, so I'll set this to be 30, just to kind of round it off because it's such a rough guess. Actually, we'll go to 28 because it doesn't look that big. All right, so we've got our height, we've got our diameter, and now we got to take a picture. So now you can see I can look down the block and get a picture this direction and pretty much get the whole tree. If I were to go up to the building on the right and take a picture of the tree, it would be a lot smaller. Let's go take a look at that, what that looks like. Come over here. You can see it's not a great picture. So for this tree, I would not photograph it here. The other option, which takes a lot longer and which is a little more complicated, actually involves crossing the street and navigating traffic and taking a picture back across the other way. I don't recommend this, but you'll see in this case, let's take a look back across the street. There's our tree. That's a great picture. And assuming there were no cars in the street, then I could actually get a little closer and take the ideal picture. But I don't recommend doing this. I think it's dangerous. I think you're better off doing the picture from the side at an angle, and it's just safer, and safer is more important. So for the next tree, we'll do it the safer way. Oh, I do need to go down and remove this note, black locust question mark, because that was for the other trees. So now, when I close this should be remembered as my most recent tree. So let's go to the top and hit close. I just walk down the street and we'll get our next dot. It looks like all the trees on this street are Jacaranda, but that tree was significantly more mature than the next. So this one, I can see the edge of the building and I can see the next building, so this dot would be here. I'm going to load last. We have another Jacaranda, so everything's the same as before, except now I'm going to put in a new diameter. This tree is quite small, 5-inch diameter. The tree height for this tree is on a human scale. But there are no shadows nearby. A lot of times I like to stand next to the tree, look at my shadow compared to the size of the tree and get an estimate that way, because I'm 6 feet tall and I can just multiply by 6 to get however many sixes I need. But again, it's next to this building that I remember the measurements of, and it's going up to roughly this second floor window. I'm going to say that is 12 plus about 3 feet, so it's about 15 feet. The condition of these trees as well, I'm keeping the good because they look good. I'll sometimes put 60 if they look like they're thinning out or don't look healthy, but generally I just put good for everything. I could even call these trees excellent, but I don't know. I think it's safer to call them good, not give them too much credit. Okay, 15, so let's take a picture of this next tree here. So without going across the street, I'll take this one at an angle. You get it right here, I can get the buildings in the background. You can see the planter it's in. So that picture, I believe, because you can see the curve of the sidewalk, you can see the building in the background, you can see the grate, you can see the entire tree. That's a good picture for me. Let's say you make a mistake though. I'm gonna do one more tree, because let's say you make a mistake. Let's say I'm done. I actually just wanna click on something on the map and I click over here. Uh-oh. What happened? I created a tree, I didn't mean to. I can close this. Now you'll see that there is a dot across the street, right? What am I gonna do with that? So I'm gonna turn off add tree mode, stop adding trees. The best thing to do, and the easiest thing to do in my case, is just go to the next tree and move that dot there. So I'm going to go to the next tree. So instead of adding a new tree, I am going to move that dot I created by accident to the location of this new tree. So let me zoom in. I'm going to take that dot. I'm going to go up here and say move trees. I'm going to take this dot and I'm going to move it. Now, if you ever click somewhere and you click the wrong place, it'll ask you, do you want to move this point? Just say no. If you weren't clicking where you wanted a tree to go and that comes up, just say no and start over. So this tree over here is selected on the left, so I just have to click where the new tree goes. That's sometimes the hardest part. So I'm just taking a second to look at the map. I obviously can't see the side, it's just too dark in the image for me to use the image to do it, but I see the building there. I'm trying to track to where the building hits the ground, because sometimes the buildings, in this case, the buildings look like they're leaning to the right. So I'm going to put this tree right here. So now the dot's where I want it. I can now, the move tree only works for one tree, so I don't have to turn that off. Now I can click the tree, hit details, and I can hit load last still. It'll always bring up the last tree I looked at. And there, oh, actually it did not work, see? So you just have to be careful. Let's see, load last. Right, so because we went into move tree mode and came back, it's cleared the last tree we added. We're not in add mode, so we have to start over. And we just go through the top. We know this is a Jacaranda. Commonly used species are at the top, so that's handy. Jacaranda, we're going to estimate. And I say estimate because I'm not using a tape, I'm just using a ruler and eyeballing it. So even though I am measuring the tree, I'm still estimating. Number of steps is 1. For the diameter, we're going to take a look with my little ruler here and say it's about 9. It's always best to round up if you're not sure. This tree slanted a bit. I compared to the last one. It looks like about the same height as the last one, maybe a few feet taller, so I'm going to put in 18. I'm going to say it's in good condition. And then we're ready to take the picture. All right, again, when you're taking the picture, try not to get any people in the picture. So we will, this one I'm going to actually come back against the building and take a picture because I can get enough height. Although I think I can get a better picture if I came to the side and took it from an angle, then I can get the full height of the tree. I can still capture the sidewalk features and the surrounding buildings and that pole enough to identify the exact location of the tree. All right, so we use that one. And that took care of our extra dot we created by accident. Now notice I don't have any comments entered and I don't have any of these mapping or QC things entered. So that's it. So we finished about half of the city block. I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of it without you having to watch. But basically the same process. I'll just continue all the way around the block in a circle until I'm done. And then I can move to the next block. And at this pace, we should be able to get about 250 blocks done. All the organizations that protect our downtown and make it beautiful for us can keep track of these trees. And I just found something else I want to do. I just realized as I was talking that between the last 2 trees I did, that one and this one, there's an empty well. Well, this was clearly a spot that a tree used to be. And the Downtown San Diego Partnership is very interested in repopulating all of these empty wells with new trees. So let's go back to Tree Plotter. We want to add a tree in this hole. This hole is about halfway between our 2 trees that we just did, so we'll go up to Add Tree. We'll add it right in the middle. This one, because it's an empty spot, since you're doing the inventory, the only thing that comes up for status is alive. We have the ability to set these as planting sites, whatever, but we don't want you making those determinations. So what we want you to do is just mark QC mapping requested or QC requested, whatever you like. I mean, it'll get our attention either way. But this one, the tree, the common name, there's no real option. We kind of have to use unknown, right? And diameter measurement method, let's just put in estimated, but it doesn't really matter because there will not be a tree here. You could even leave diameter, tree height, all those things blank because there's no tree. In fact, diameter estimated method will just leave blank, right? This is a nothing. And but the most important thing here is that we take a picture. So I'm going to take a photo. This photo is really important because we want to be able to determine exactly where it is. So I'm going to take the photo right here, straight at it from the building, showing what's directly behind it. This photo. That's a really important photo because people will be looking at these maps from their office, taking a look at these pictures and deciding if a tree should go there. I can take more pictures if I like. So down here, the tree plotter will always show the most recent picture I took. So I can take another picture, just say choose files and take photo. I can put a picture of this hole in context. So if I take this picture here, you'll see the trees on either side and the grate and the background. That way, someone can say like, oh yeah, that tree, we need one there for sure. Look at all that space. One thing I failed to point out on the other street when we had the unidentified species was that when you don't know the species of a tree, the arborists can't necessarily determine it from a single photo. It's generally best to take 3 photos. First, just take a picture close-up of the leaves. Second, take a picture of any colored leaves or fruit or anything that looks, different than just standard leaves on the tree. And then third, take a picture of the entire tree. And those 3 pictures should be enough information for our arborists to go through and identify them remotely. And if they can't, they'll have to visit them on site, but that's an important thing to know. So let's go ahead and close this. So this tree right here, because it says QC mapping, because there's a picture of a blank spot, I could even write down here missing tree. That's extra helpful, because then that explains, again, it's always best to leave a note when you check the QC boxes, because then we know why you checked them. So I put missing tree down here. We have our 2 pictures. We left all those measurements blank, and the species is unknown, and that's perfect. So when I hit close, you'll see that there's now a dot there, just like there would be a tree there, but obviously there is not a tree there. And it's something that will probably become a planting site and will become a tree in the near future. All right. Well, thank you for watching. I think that's everything I wanted to cover. I'm sure you'll have questions, and you guys can get in touch with us and ask us whatever questions you have as they come up, and we'll update all these training materials too to deal with your questions as they come in. All right, thank you for watching. Bye.